What's up, everybody? What's up? My name is Spicer McLeroy. And today we are going to be going over some critiques of some students. And the first one up is Justin. All these were sculpted within an hour. These are junior students. And speed sculpting isn't something I do very often, so them getting this far is very commendable. So, first thing is first, we always make sure before you hand it off. It's a very simple thing to do, and just make sure that your eyes are equal distance around the surface of the sphere. Okay. So another thing, whenever we go in class, Tuesday we'll go over this in a bit more detail, but your eyelids are a bit too, they're a bit too uh, thin and then thick, we need to make sure that they are consistent. Ready? So let's see. We also need to make sure that that we have some space here. And again, there's a tendon here that we'll go over in class. But just to sculpt it in a bit, you need to have a bit of indentation and then just a little jet off over here, right? And then you got that little tendon right there. Okay. And then you also down here, you just need to use your damn standard brush and give it an eyelid, right? So I'm gonna go solo so the mesh doesn't affect it. And then go in here and just make sure that that eyelid is consistent. Right? And we know that the upper eyelid goes over the bottom eyelid. Okay. So we'll go over here and fix that. Okay. And on these, since I'm not going to sculpt 8 different eyes, I'm just going to go over one area for one piece, and then go over another area of the face for the next, and so forth. So here we go. Ready? So we also need, we need a little bag under the eye. Like I know the concept art is very dark and stuff, but I just wanted to see if everybody was going to stick to anatomy or start shadow sculpting. We did have some shadow sculpting going on, but that's fine because what you did get right was the zygomatic, right? Well, almost got it right. And go ahead and merge these ears to these heads from now on. Here, because it's really important to see these together and to be able to move them together. So we're going to merge this down. Okay. And then redynamesh it. All right, so fix that, fix that, fix that, fix that, fix that. Okay. So first thing that we know is that the ear hole, that the zygomatic goes over the ear hole, right? Just right over the ear hole. Our ear hole's here, so our zygomatic would have to start from here, and if we went straight out, then the bottom of the orbit would be right here. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to move this ear down. And there, we can get the bottom of the orbit to the zygomatic. Okay, and regardless of the concept art and any of that stuff, if it's a humanoid, it's going to have these type of things. Okay, so We need to put the temple here, and we're going to build that up. But then we have the temporalis going around here, and we'll look over in class over this muscle on Tuesday and really go deep into it. So, but definitely got to hit that zygomatic. We all know. I mean, we've gone over it in class a few times, so we need to make sure that we don't make the same mistake over and over again. All right, so we have the malar eminence right here where the zygomatic comes out. Right there, okay? So we have the inferior orbital furrow right here, and we need to put that in place, right? Follow that around because um, we need this following around the eye, right? Because we got this muscle going all the way around the eye. And so while we're here, what we could do is really knock in this superior lateral margin of the temple and then bring it down. Okay, something like that. Okay, and so from here we know that's the temple right here, temporal arch. So we can put the forehead here, or the frontal bone, and then superciliary arches right there. Okay. And this wobble, we gotta, there's a fan of muscles. We'll go over that in class. So we gotta make sure we knock in that. But what I was really looking for on these was, did you follow what we've already gone over, which is the angle of the zygomatic right here. And so we just gotta make sure that we don't make that mistake anymore. Right? Because if we make this mistake again, then I can't. This is the second time we've gone over it, so we gotta start grading accordingly. All right. So we know that the TMJ here. We'll go over that again on Tuesday. Starts right here, and we've got that. Okay. So that's a problem. Those are the problems that I would fix with yours starting with that one. Okay. So let's see who is next. Who is next? I think it went out of order actually. I think the first one should have been Camilla. Okay, so let's. Sorry about that, Camilla. Ladies first. Should have known. Should have known. All right, so Camilla, speed sculpt 2. Okay, first off, you're sculpting upside down. All right, so we can't have that. The T-pose mesh. I'm going to take this preview, go to preview, rotate it to where it looks straight up and down, and then store it, and then T-pose sub T. Okay. So if you want to know where that is, that's in the Z plugin, Transpose Master, T-pose, T-pose sub T. Okay. So now we have this all on the right part. Okay. So the eyes, I know what y'all are trying to do. Y'all are trying to get that lid. All right. And again, the same thing goes, even if you did sculpt these lids like this, we still have the same problems that we had on the first video. Okay. But what I want to go over again is the zygomatic. Okay. Because the zygomatic and the mandible we've gone over. We really need to make sure that we sculpt that correctly. Okay. So if this is the bottom margin of the orbit, then we know that the zygomatic should probably come from here then. Okay, let's talk about the skull a bit, because even though it's a speed sculpt and you're putting hair all over it, the hair that's on top of it needs to align with the proper shape of the skull, or it's just not going to flow right and it's not going to sit right. Okay, so we got Dynamesh this. This is kind of super high res too. I'm not sure why. Even for my computer, which is super, super duper duper, um, it's kind of slowing it down. So, yeah. Yeah, with the yeah, there's no reason to have it this high res, because we don't need to get into this much detail. Hmm. Hmm. Alrighty, waiting, 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 waiting. We'll wait. We'll wait. Okay. Let's see if we can. I'm wondering. I'm just gonna close the program, and then we'll start over. Okay. So yeah, for some reason that's like my computer doesn't stall for much, but it's stalling for that. Alrighty. So let's see. We're gonna go Z plugin, transpose master, T post sub T, let it do its thing, go to preview, orient it by holding shift so it locks into place, press store, um, put it back here, and then go Z plugin, transpose master, T post sub T. Alrighty, so now we've got it the right way. Okay, so let's see what is going on with this. Why is this? Okay, let's go 128. Or you know what? 64. 128. Okay, so let's talk about superciliary arches on yours. Okay, so you have these muscles right here. They're in the cashew form, remember? Okay, and then you're also missing your temporal arch. So let's go over that. And again, um, let's just form this skull up a bit more. Make sure you always have your skull in place before you do anything. Remember, we're talking about being in a very egg-like shape. Okay, and then that. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to mark in the zygomatic. All right, so it's going to be again right here. This is a superior margin, goes up into the temple, wraps around to the temporal line, comes back around. Okay, and then we have the inferior margin going out here and roughly ends about there. Okay, so we know we have a lot of wobbling going on here. So regardless of the concept art that you get, you know your zygomatic's not going to be doing this, right? Because at least here, up until we get to the malar eminence on the side where it's starting to round the corner, right around there, there's a muscle that attaches here that goes down to allow us to um, express, right? But but we're not talking about that right now, right? But here on the Zygomatic, there's nothing attaching over it, so there really shouldn't be that much surface variation, at least at this stage. Okay, so if we look at the side, there are examples like Patrick Stewart of there being a bulge here at the beginning of the temporalis, but so I'll allow that. It is it is there. What we need to do is we need to emphasize this superior lateral margin of the brow. Okay, because you can see yours is very subtle, which lends itself to a female face, and we were using some pretty. The guy looked very masculine and very skeletal, so we need to make sure that we need to mark in that area. All right. Do 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 do. Go back down here a bit more. Get that. Okay, so if we have this going on, then we look at the length of his mandible right here, and we can see that this angle's in the wrong place. It should be probably right around here, right? So this would be an extremely feminine jaw line right here. So we need to bring this down, right? We need to give it some length, and we need to have the angle of the jaw right there, and then we'll have the mandible coming out from there, okay? And then smooth that back, okay? And then we have a lot of empty space down here that we'll talk about on Tuesday about filling in. And we'll talk about this sternomyoclastoid there. But whenever you have something on here, at least go back and forth from the angle of the jaw to the angle of the jaw to fill in this area, because very rarely, except whenever they're going to be very, very emasticated, they're very, very, very thin, hardly any fat whatsoever, will you see the underlying skeletal structure right here. Okay, so make sure to fill in that area. Okay, so now we have something a little bit more masculine. We can have a little bit wider right there on the side, and there we go. And we'll talk about the masseter, but for right now, we'll just say that most of it's going to be right here on the angle of the jaw, and then transfer up here to the underside of this zygomatic. Okay. Alrighty, so we've got that going, and we'll talk about this area later, so I'm not going to get into it right now. But really what I'm focusing on is what I've been teaching you in class. Okay, so again, we could have a bit more meat here. All right, because we're talking about the masculine jaws is juts out and is wider than the female jaw, so make sure to emphasize that. Okay, but that's what I would focus on for yours. On the next one, I really want to see the zygomatic and it placed correctly. And then I want to see this orbit a little bit more. We'll talk about eyes, so I'm not really worried about that right now. Okay, we'll talk about that for sure. For like 2 days, we're going to talk about eyes. All right, so yeah, that's what I would do for yours. Let's see who is next. Ramirez. Let's see. Speed sculpts. Ramirez. Alrighty. So let's look at yours again. What this is, I have no idea. I know you know this is wrong. I know you know this is wrong. And again, we're we're playing with way too high of a res on this. I think there's going to be a limit on the Dynamesh from now on because of you, Ramirez. Okay. All right. So let's see what's going on. I like the length of the mandible right here. You got the angle of the jaw. You got that going on this one, just a little bit straighter on that. Okay. And a little bit more of an Adam's apple. So we can fill in that area. Okay. Next, we need to make sure the ear hole is right in the center. You pretty much got it. Okay. Bring it down just a little bit. You almost had it. Almost had it. All right, so right above the ear hole, beginning of the zygo, going up to the temple, get that hit, and then you've got the temporalis. Right. So then we have the bottom margin. And knock that in. But yeah, for years, at least what we've been going over. And then go on the side of the skull. I know we haven't really gone into it, but make sure that you give some plane change here for the temporalis. All right, we'll go into a bunch of examples of that in class. And remember the superciliary arches, the glabella is separating it right here. So make sure to leave some space for that. Okay. Also, the nasal aperture, that's what this bump is on this guy. All right, so let's, did I get that artwork? Let me see. Hold on one second. We get the artwork out. Oh, yes. Yes, we did. Okay, so quattro, 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 quattro. Alrighty, so we've got come on. What is this? What is going on? Oh, I don't like this. I don't like that it asked me to do that. Oh well. Right, always on top. There we go. So put this over here. Okay. What was I? What was I talking about? Alrighty. And then we also need to make sure we emphasize over here on the lateral side and make sure you get this orbit correct. We got that little fall off right here. And it comes around. So then we can emphasize here and build out from there. Okay. You can see that little hit that we have, and it goes back and comes out. That's the skull turning the corner. to get the inferior margin of the orbit, right? And then we'll talk about eyes on Tuesday. Okay? Just make sure you hit that, and make sure you hit that angle on the inferior margin of the zygote. Okay. Alrighty. So next, Alex. Alrighty. So let's get the shape of the cranium. Okay. And you're sculpting on the side. Or are you? Or no? No, you're not. Okay. So we need to get a little bit less on this. Okay. You look from the very top, and as we've stated before, you need to make sure that the back third is the widest part of the skull. Okay, and we don't need to be at resolution 360 for this. Okay. All right, and the ear should be in the center of the skull, right? To split us on the side. And then the jaw should be in front of that. And the angle of the jaw, then have it come out. Okay. And we need to make sure that the jaw comes out a bit. And let's talk about what we've gone over in class. Okay. So I'm going to smooth all this out because we don't need it yet. Okay, so if this is the ear hole, then right above it comes up and rocks around. Your temporal line is good. That was in the right place. Okay, and the bottom margin of the zygomatic coming up. Okay, coming up right there. Okay, and then you're pretty much set up now, right? So now the bottom or the top margin right here of the zygomatic is going to give you the bottom of your eye right there, going across. Okay. Then now you know that you can emphasize this temple right here. Smooth it out. Right? So then you got that little knock. And we'll talk about eyes for sure. Just gonna smooth those out. And okay. So that's what I would focus on for yours. Make sure you knock in that zygomatic so that you can get all this set up and have a little bit more confidence on your forms. Okay. Alrighty, and then the nasal aperture. Make sure that you leave enough room for it. Okay. That's what's good looking. Getting that temporal line, you did good. You did good. Okay. So just make sure you get the shape of your head, and then you should be a little bit more confident. Notice the plane change, right? Boom, and then you have like these sunglasses right here on the front, right? Little nerd glasses. And then you got the nasal aperture splitting that. Okay. Alrighty. So let's see who is next. Karen V. Karen V. Let's see. Alrighty. So the jaw's too far back. I do like the shape of the skull though. That's looking good, isn't it? Okay. But we're missing a lot of the landmarks that we've been going over. Okay. I know you missed the first day, so let me just give you a little refresher. Okay, so this jaw should be in front of the midline, generally for say about 80% of us. Okay. The widest part of the skull is going to be in the back third. Okay. Ready? And now let's mark in the ear hole. It's going to be right around there. So let's put it right here. Okay. And then we've got the top of the zygomatic going into the temple, right? And then the temporal line going into the temporalis, right here. There you go. So now we know we can fill in this area with the temple. Overemphasize this lateral margin of the orbit. Not overemphasize, but just emphasize it. And we know now that this is going to be the bottom of the orbit. We put that in there. The inferior orbital furrow leads into the front part of the zygomatic. And then we can put this angle right there. Okay. So now, with some confidence, we know that that's the that's malar eminence, basically the edge of the chin. Okay. And there we go. Leave some room for the temporalis to come in here. Okay. So next thing, since we've marked that in, we know that the jaw is going to come from underneath here. You know, there might be a neutral transition, but for right now, we just want to overemphasize some things. Okay. And then your angle of the jaw and all that was looking good. Okay. So you can see how much more confident these shapes are, right? So this is what we have, and then we can look at that, right? So a little bit more skeletal, right? We definitely know where the cheekbone is now due to how we're planning it all. Like usually I like taking the temporal line and just imagining that it's continuing and meeting here at the front side of the masseter. And for me, that kind of guides it. I don't know if it works, but that's where that's what I like to do. All right, so let's just start there for class, and we'll get further and further along for sure, and make sure that your head sculpting is 100% better than you came in with. Okay, and so I can noodle this one all day long. It's a fun one. Okay, so let's see who's next. J.A. Jorge Alejandro. Okay, let's look at this guy. Alrighty, so you definitely got a better skeletal impression than the last time. Good job. All right, and basically what we need to do is just refine some things. Okay, so like this character and these angles that you've got going, this is very, very stylized. I like it. I like all these curves. They're very, very nice. Good job. Okay, so we just need to shorten the head a bit. Back third. Look at it from very top. Let's move this forward a bit. Get a bigger brush. Move it forward. Okay, boom. Maybe even a bit more. Yeah. Okay. And we're talking about the differences between male and female skulls. So we know that the superciliary arches and the temple is a little bit more pronounced on that, right? So we're going to make sure that we emphasize that whenever we're sculpting sculpting male heads. Okay, so, and then we got to make sure we leave enough room here for the glabella. And then the superciliary arches will be on each side. Yeah. So let's knock this in. So right here we got that little wobble. All right. So let's go, and then too much of a depression here. You will see, I mean, I guess a few standard deviations from what I'm teaching. You will see that like a cavity in the temporalis. But for right now, let's just try to keep it in the 68th percentile. Right. So the jaw, that is a little bit too far back. Just move it up a bit so we have enough room for the ear hole. Okay. And then we know from the top of the ear hole, right there is the superior margin of the zygomatic, comes up for the temple, then comes around, and then the temporalis comes back. Okay. And we've got that going. So now we know here we can get our lateral margin of the temple right there. And we can emphasize that little flare on the brow. Okay. So next thing we need to do is it's a little bit too concave, but let's just mark in what it should be, like right around there. We got the inferior orbital furrow right here that we need to mark in. And that's a good continuation for the front of the zygomatic right here, for it to meet, right? So we also need to build this up, okay? And smooth out the difference, maybe dig in here a little bit so that the temporalis can come from within the zygomatic instead of on top. Okay. And then we know right around here is where it's going to turn the edge, okay? And then we just need to leave some room for this medial margin of the orbit. Right there and right there's probably where we should be having it. Just let it flow down here. And then we'll talk about eyes on Tuesday. So no worries on that. Okay. And then we need to make sure that most of the mass is down here for the jaw muscle, right? The masseter. And we'll go in depth with that. Okay, but that's really what I want you to pay attention to. And just make sure that you have enough space right here for that, right, for the zygomatic right here. And knock that in a little bit more. Okay. But again, I really like these curves that you have going on. It's just a few things that, trust me, by the time we are done with this 6 weeks, you will have so much more knowledge on sculpting the face and how to do it correctly and how things connect. Alrighty, so Salinas. You are next, Salinas. Let's see. Alrighty. So let's take a look. Alrighty. So again, the cranium is not that big, generally, at least, generally speaking. Right, and just a little bit too much of an angle right there. Okay, but what we can emphasize on the angle is right here. I do like how you do have the skeletal structure going right around here. And obviously you have been paying attention. They can see you trying to do this. So take a little bit more time on yours. Take a little bit more time. Salinas. Okay. So we just need to leave some room for the glabella, which you have indicated, and then we just got to get these little cashews right there for the superciliary arches. Okay, and then you just got to place your zygomatic right around there. Okay, right around there, and then your ear hole's gonna be right around here. So it comes up, almost making a hook, like almost making an L, and then coming around, and there's your temporalis. A little bit more angled up there. Okay, so we got that going, right? So now, right here, we can emphasize this area a little bit more confidently. Come down, and we've got the inferior margin of the orbit, and eyes again will go over, and we can get the inferior orbital furrow right here. That go in. And now we can mark in the bottom or the inferior margin of the zygomatic right here. And again, you have it well indicated where it would meet up. So good job on that. All right, and again, for masculine, a little bit longer, just a little, just a tad. Okay. So now we can just smooth this out since we have it all marked in. And we don't need, there's a new restriction for the for the res on Dynamesh. We're like 500, 400, 336. Like, what the? Do y'all have a method? Do y'all even know? Alrighty, so make sure this is all shaped well. All right, you got the back third going. Good job. Good. Okay. And we can emphasize that a bit more. We will make sure the widest part is also the back third of the zygomatic. Okay. And there we go. Okay. And now we have room for all these eye bags and eye fat and wrinkles and all that, especially since he's squinting. And generally on this, yeah, you can see these rings right here. Those are tarsal plates right here, and we'll talk about measurements and all that. But this is just old skin and fat right here. This isn't actually an eye wrinkle, right? So the eye would be going up and right here, right there, and then the fat and skin would be hanging over it, right? So, like Clint Eastwood has it. So, that's what that is. Okay. So that's what I would do. Maybe a little bit further down. Something like that. And then good to go. Okay. That's what I would start with for yours. Alrighty. So who is next? Who is next? Kenneth. Kenneth. Let's take a look. Alrighty. So let's take a look. I like the sketchy nature of it. Good. Your jaw's in the right place. We just got to make sure that we don't have this concavity right here whenever we're trying to join the neck and the underneath the chin, right? We want to have a little bit more right here. Okay, not really affecting the jawline, but definitely everything underneath here. And we're going to 128 on this. Alrighty, so you're marking in things. I like that. You're paying attention. Just need a little bit more guidance. I know, again, that seems like a lot of like the zygomatics going up, but again, we know it's coming in right here, always, always, always. Okay. So regardless of the concept art, we're paid to do it, sculpt it correctly. Especially on a humanoid character, we definitely got to make sure that we know where things belong. Okay. So let's see, for yours, your zygomatic should probably be right around there, even a little bit lower. Then that should be there. And so here we know we can emphasize that area. I'm just getting rid of all these wrinkles because we're just focusing on the form right now. Okay, and make sure to leave some room, regardless of the concept art, for the glabella. And then you can put your brows furrowing on each side with these superciliary arches. Again, very cashew-like, very nutty. And then we'll know how to fill in all this Tuesday. And then we can just look and make sure their zygo is not wibbling and a wobbling. Okay. And then we can emphasize this little angle of the jaw right here. And make sure, regardless of the skin and fat and everything, we have a nice solid form from the chin to this mandible, right? We're not going to have a lot of wobbling or anything like that in terms of the form, right? Okay. And then the angle of the jaw. And even on some, it bows in before it comes back out. We saw that on the super testosterone skull. And then again, the master, all the muscles can be down here towards the bottom. Okay. And then just gotta make sure we leave some room for the frontal bone or the forehead. Okay. And that's a bit too deep on that angle. Okay. And then the nasal aperture is looking pretty good. Got that in the right place. So good job. Okay. So that's what I would do with yours, Kenny. All right, in KB, you are new to the class. You missed the first day, rusty and ZBrush, so we won't judge you too much. Okay? But just so that we can go over what you got, Dynameshes, we're going to start with our move brush. So B to bring up the brush palette, M to select all the brushes with M, and then V right here for the move brush. Okay. So from the very top, we got to make sure that the widest part is the back third. Okay. And then we got to have the frontal bone poking forward. Okay. And then make sure this is kind of rounded right here for the skull. Okay. And then we can mark kind of like well, let's move the skull forward a bit. It's a little bit too large. And so right now I'm just using the move brush only, not really using any sculpting tools. You can see you can get a lot done with just that. Alrighty, so using the move brush to just a little more consistency here. Okay, and just gotta pull that back so we leave enough room for the nose. Okay. And then from the bottom, it should look kind of like a horseshoe. It's a bit too wide on the chin, but not by much. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is mark this in again right around the halfway point, right above using the damp standard. So that's BDS, and right above it, temporal arch with the temporalis, inferior margin, and then we come from the inferior orbital furrow to meet the front of the zygomatic. Okay, and we know from the superior margin of the zygomatic we can find the bottom of the orbit and start drawing that in. And meet right here at the orbital furrow. So mouthful, I'm trying to say that. Okay, so this is a bit too far back. All right, so we're going to move that forward so we can get that really nice skeletal structure going. And again, we're going to emphasize the superior lateral margin of the orbit, or the eyebrow. Okay. And then we got to make sure that the jaw is in front of the ear, at least the bone of it is. The impression of it might be different depending on the parotid gland. And there we go. So that's what I would do to kind of fix it right there, and then just make sure to have a tendency to leave enough room for the glabella right here. Okay. And then the superciliary arches, little cashews. Alrighty. So that's what I would do. Since you are unfamiliar with ZBrush and all that, I would go to the Z Classroom and just go through the beginner course. It'll take you like what, 2-3 hours or something. But since you are in the junior course, you are expected to know ZBrush. So make sure to take a look at that. Okay, so you can get caught up with everybody, and then we'll just put the mastoid process in here because we want to be fancy. Okay. But yeah, that's it for the critiques. If you want to find me anywhere, find me under Shotgun Scream, or my Instagram is SpicerCG. Make sure to follow this channel if you haven't already. Make sure to click follow up there, or subscribe. You know, maybe you got a Twitch channel, you know. But make sure to follow me on YouTube as well under Shotgun Scream. We're going to be posting all these videos over there so that you can watch them at your own, or whenever you want to. We're also going to be doing a how-to series for a collectible over there, also a how-to series for a stylized game character. The first 2 videos are up over there on the YouTube, so make sure to check them out. And I do hope that this video has been helpful. As always, please let me know what you think about this video, and if there's anything else that you want to see, definitely let me know. And have a good night, everybody.